I'm going to share with you 5 astounding life lessons, guidance for life, that the Lubavitch Rebbe shared with a young rabbi, all in one story. The first piece of advice is that when someone comes to you, make sure they are asking you for your advice before you give it. Sometimes they aren't asking you for your advice, they're just informing you of something. That's guidance number 1. Guidance number 2, one doesn't have the right to invest in their own Torah scholarship, which we value so much, if it is at the expense of other Jews not having their souls ignited. It's more important to ignite the souls of other Jews than to develop one's own spiritual self. That's number 2. Number 3, the Jewish people are your family. There isn't my family and then other Jews. The Jewish people actually are my family. Number 4, guidance. When we help others, God blesses our efforts in other areas of life so that they will be much more successful than they would be were we not helping others. In other words, when we help others, it will not hurt our other areas of life because we will have much more success and blessing in those areas because we're spending time helping others. And number 5, when you decide to do something, don't do it with resignation. Once you make that decision, know that it's right and do it happily. And here's the story. There was a young rabbi by the name of Rabbi Bernhard, who was a graduate of Yeshiva University and a student of Rabbi Yosef Ber Soloveitchik, the dean and the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva University. And this was in the 1950s. And he became a rabbi, this Rabbi Bernhard became a rabbi in Wichita, Kansas. And he was there for 4 years. And then, because there weren't many Jewish resources there, and he didn't have Jewish education for his children there, he came back to New York. At that time, the largest synagogue in South Africa, known as the Oxford Synagogue, reached out to Rabbi Soloveitchik, Rabbi Bernhard's teacher and mentor, and said, we're looking for a rabbi for our synagogue. Can you recommend someone? And one of the people that he recommended was Rabbi Bernhard. Rabbi Bernhard was not very excited about going. He just left Wichita, Kansas, because he didn't have education for his children. Now he's going to fly to South Africa, the other side of the world. He didn't know what to do, and he decided that he's going to ask the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And with the encouragement of his own mentor, Rabbi Soloveitchik told him, whatever the Lubavitcher Rebbe guides you to do is what you should do. And that is what led to this meeting that he had with the Rebbe. And in that meeting, the Rebbe told him that a fire is raging in the Jewish world. That fire, of course, is the fire of assimilation, of secularism, of the fact that Jews' souls after the Holocaust needed to be re-inspired. Anyone, the Rebbe told him, who is able to extinguish the fires that are destroying, that are attacking the Jewish people, must do so. And he basically told him, it's your responsibility to go to the Oxford Synagogue in South Africa and become the rabbi. And he said, you have no right to become a Torah scholar. That means to spend your time now studying as you wish to do for yourself when there's a large community of Jewish people who need a leader, and you can be that leader. Rabbi Bernhard said, Rebbe, what about the chinuch, the education of my children? That's the reason why I left Wichita, Kansas. And then he added, Rabbi Bernhard added, that I know the story of the Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer was a great rabbi, the chief rabbi of Pressburg, otherwise known as Bratislava today. And he was concerned about taking that position, the Chassam Sofer. This was in the 1800s. And he was guided that if you will invest effort in the community, the merit that you will earn by leading a community will compensate and make sure that your children will ultimately be educated and raised in the way you would want them to be. So Rabbi Bernhard said, I know that was the advice given to the Chassam Sofer, but I am not the Chassam Sofer. I'm not such a great rabbi, and I don't have that merit. And so the Rebbe told him, whenever someone does something for fellow Jews, they will automatically carry enormous merit in all other areas of their life. And you will have this merit too for your children. And then he said, quoting a verse from the Torah, I haven't looked after my own vineyard, and I'm going to look after other vineyards. And the Rebbe told him, the Jewish people are not another vineyard. That is your vineyard. Very powerful. That we don't see other Jews as outside my family. This is actually my family. So he went to Oxford. He became a very dynamic leader. He was a fantastic orator. His influence was enormous in the synagogue, grew. And after 10 years, he felt like he put in his time, and he wanted now to move to Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And he wrote a letter to the Rebbe about this. He looked at different communities in Israel to figure out where he wants to move. He wrote a letter to the Rebbe, but he still felt, in his strong connection that he developed with the Rebbe, that he can't just go to Israel. He has to really come to the Rebbe and ask the Rebbe whether that's the right thing to do. So 10 years later, he comes back to the Rebbe and has a private meeting with the Rebbe once again. And the Rebbe asked him, regarding your moving to Israel, are you asking me for a bracha? Are you asking me for a blessing? Or are you asking me my advice? You see, the Rebbe would not give him advice until the Rebbe knew he was seeking the Rebbe's advice. Sometimes people are not asking us for our advice, they're informing us of something. Very big insight. And Rabbi Bernhard said, I'm asking for advice. And the Rebbe said, don't you think I would also like to move to Israel and live in the Holy Land? But I don't. Because how can I do that to the Jews that I'm serving? It would be beautiful if you moved to Israel, but it would be the wrong thing for you to do. Your place in this world is in South Africa. And so Rabbi Bernhard accepted that his lot and his mission in life was in South Africa, but he wasn't so excited about it. And the Rebbe asked him, are you making this decision with the resignation, or are you making it happily? Because doing it with resignation is not the way to make a commitment. And Rabbi Bernhard understood what the Rebbe was telling him when he said, Rebbe, I'm doing it happily. And there he spent the rest of his life, being a dynamic leader and having an enormous impact. And you see from this story how we learn that one investing in their own spirituality at the expense of other Jews losing out is the wrong thing to do. Our spirituality doesn't come before the development of and the inspiration we can possibly offer to many other Jews. When we help others, that will bless enormously the efforts we put into other areas of our life. We won't need as much time because those efforts will be blessed in a great way. The Jewish people are our family. It's not like there's my family and then there's the Jewish people. And we have to look at the Jew. This is the way the Rebbe saw every single Jew. When someone reaches out to us, let's make sure that they're asking us for our advice. You see, if someone's asking us for our advice, they're open to hearing it. If someone's not asking us for our advice, or just asking us for our blessing, we're going to have to think twice before we give our advice. They may not want to hear it. And lastly, don't make decisions with resignation. If you know that this is the right thing to do, think about that and say, if this is the right thing to do, I embrace it joyfully. I'm going to take it on fully.